Friday, September 2nd, 2022. I'm Steven Sersky, and this here is my podcast. Today I got another guest with me, a returning guest, David Harrison Horton, joining me today. 1 year, just over 1 year since he was last on the show. He was on the show back in April of last year, and today we shift focus as he's been quite busy in the last year. Not only has he been locked down and started working from home, but he's also been able to publish a book. So today we got together and we're able to talk about some of the things that he's been doing in terms of the arts, what he's seeing happening in the current Beijing arts scene, given the current exodus of expats from the city, as well as how the art scene is shaping up in general. We get into some of the work that he's done with his publication and what's going forward for his life here in Beijing and possibly elsewhere. Episode number 33 with David Harrison Horton. Hope you guys enjoy. Episode number 33, David Harrison Horton. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Been over a year. So you were here in April, I think, last time.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
That was a while ago. And we talked a lot about... have you listened to that episode again since... it was a lengthy one. I was actually surprised at how long we went.
It was like 3 hours.
3.5?
Yeah.
That was a 2-file export from Logic because it won't export things. Like getting up to 3.5, 4 hours, it's too much for the system to handle. So, but last time we talked a lot more about like life in China, how things were going. Especially last year, we were still in the midst of the coronavirus. I mean, this year though, not so much, right? I mean, you've been busy with other things.
Yeah, I've been busy with other things. Corona's still here, but not in the
city. I guess so, isn't it? But we don't travel, so it's not not affected.
Trying to keep busy.
So you were what were we doing last year in April? Do you remember? I can't. We weren't. We didn't work this April. It was we were kiboshed on that one. But last April, were we still going out of town quite a bit for work trips?
Not a lot, but I think there were some.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's hard to remember.
It's so foggy.
Yeah, well, this April, was that when I was locked down?
Yes.
Yeah, so
that's what happened this year.
I wasn't doing anything.
Right. That's right. You did get locked down.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah, that's right. How was that?
That was awesome. Government vegetables.
How long? What did they give you?
It's actually they did all right. Eventually, they allowed people to go to the vegetable market and I'm not going to call it a supermarket, but a grocery store. I guess grocery store is the right word. They allowed them to open back up inside the area that was locked down, so you could actually go and be part of a group of 5 that could go to the grocery store, and they told you it's like you have 30 minutes, and it was interesting.
Because COVID can't transmit in 30 minutes with a group of 5.
The group of 5 thing was for all the old people that refused to order vegetables online on phones.
Why is this?
What? Because they want to go pick up their own vegetables. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
But that's what I did. So I was like, it's fine.
Was that a sort of a breath of fresh freedom at that point, to get out of your apartment?
Well, it was the only way to get out of the compound. Was in a group of 5 for half an hour to the vegetable market or the grocery store.
You had to pick one.
Yeah.
And you had to,
how are you going to do a half hour and do both?
I don't know. I don't understand how any of that worked, to tell you the truth. This sounds fascinating, but at the same time, I mean, I know that you were locked down.
Yeah,
you and a couple other people were locked down.
It's one of those things, it's like, it was an experience. I like having armed police at the end of my blocks.
Right.
Because that's always great. After the first week, they were manned just by the normal Baoan folk, but for the first week, it was actually cops telling people that they couldn't cross the border.
What would have happened if they did? Do you think they would have shot?
No, just rough them up.
Wow.
Cart them off.
I mean, in the States, they'd shoot you.
Well, at least tase you.
Tase you. Canada, they probably tase you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They don't shoot people. Well, they try not to shoot too many people anymore. So
Yay, body cams.
that's changed things. But I mean, so you've had this sort of a very odd experience.
It's you know, it's one of those things like many things here. Like you've been here long enough. You know, it's like it'll work its way into an interesting story later after you're done with all the post-traumatic stress of it all.
Yeah. Were you stressed at all during that time?
More bored.
Right.
I mean, it's like I had already stocked up. Like I had a month's worth of food. I wasn't worried about that. I'm still eating the meat that I had stored up from then.
Okay.
So it's like I wasn't worried about that. I had a crazy amount of water. It's like I went into like survivalist mode a good couple weeks before then because I thought something was going to happen because of the middle school.
Yeah, they got tagged, didn't they? Well, and this follows. I remember prior to the Olympics, which also happened this year. I mean, do you remember that?
I remember having plans to go watch some hockey games that never.
That didn't happen.
Yeah,
not at all. But I remember because it was you and there was a couple other colleagues, and all Americans were doomsday saying how we were all going to get shut down. Then Shanghai got shut down.
Yep.
We didn't. And then I was like, will you guys just shut up and stop talking about it? And then you guys got locked down. And like around my compound, people got locked down, but this compound never did.
It's the thing that irritates me so much is like I could actually look, and across the street from me, they were not locked down.
Right. No, looking across the street here, that one was locked down. I'm going, and they had the sheet metal and everything. You're just going, how depressing.
Yep.
There's so much to unravel here, and that in other times and another place, maybe you can sort of voice these things a little bit better. But suffice it to say, it's like, how do you think that's going to stop anything?
I actually got a call from someone in the government that wanted to give me a survey about how foreigners were being affected by policies.
Yeah, and what did you say?
I understood everything, and the policies all seemed to make sense. Thank you very much for your service. Can I hang up now?
Full satisfaction. 5 stars. There's no point fighting it sometimes, right?
Well, it is. What's the point? Yeah. It's like I would really like to go home and know that I could come back to work.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Do you think they would have changed anything? Like, had you been like a bit more vocal about being displeased or anything like that?
No, of course not. I mean, like, I don't even know why they would do that.
What would they do? Like, what could they do? Right.
Well,
it's bizarre because this whole Shanghai thing, and then Beijing as well. I mean, I know there's a bunch of theories about what was going on and everything, like what was really going on. But at the end of the day, you're given a directive. A bunch of people who really have no other, like they don't have to follow it, but they're like, well, but I was told, and that's my job.
Yep.
And it just trickles down. It's kind of like how we do our job too. We were just told, like, I was doing my job, and I do appreciate that. I appreciate, and as I get older, and as I sort of see myself getting older and seeing the young kids come into the workplace, how they try to change things. Like there's such energy, and I'm like, that's great, that's awesome. You find something else. Like you're gonna need to channel that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're working for someone else, you have to do what they say, and it doesn't matter. You might have the greatest idea in the world, but the company was there before you. It's probably going to be there after you. How much can you, as a little cog, change? So you do need that sort of something else to focus on.
This is where you should start reading manuals on like industrial sabotage.
No. What sort of industrial sabotage are you wanting to do?
I'm not wanting to do anything.
What were you reading? What manual were you reading?
Actually, there's quite a few.
Okay.
It's true. It's the French do a good job of it. So does Sweden somehow. No, but the idea of instead of having a strike, having an almost imperceptible slowdown.
So that would mean like the worker. But that's like factory wide. I mean, you have to get other people to agree with you. People's livelihoods. I mean, someone's going to show up to work. I mean, someone's going to be there. It's like, well, I can't afford to take that day off.
Well, you don't even need to take days off. Just do the work that you normally do a little bit slower.
You think that's a problem?
It accumulates.
Do you think it's a problem in this country sometimes? I'm sorry to say it. It's just the slowness of some things, but the speed of others.
See, that's yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's no fire started. And I really hate using that word because I just see them. Oh, you want a fire? Hey, Steve, we'll give you a fire. No, I don't want a fire, but that sort of passion to do stuff. Very good. I was talking to one of my neighbors, and he was saying that the Chinese people that he was working with seem to be a little bit more downtrodden this year. Are you seeing that in your neighborhood? Like, people are just sort of not as hustling as much. There isn't that same sort of, we got this. We're going to, not only am I doing my job, I'm doing like 17 other things as well, hobbies and everything. Like, you see that happening?
Hobbies?
No.
No.
Really?
No, I mean, to be fair, it's like, honestly, like the people that I do talk to, it's like they just seem to be trying to get on with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, just get through it.
Have they changed jobs?
Most haven't. Some have because the companies they were working for no longer exist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's happened. Yeah, a lot did.
Yeah. And that's not great.
No, and I mean, because they've also been hit by financially. So, like, having hobbies in Beijing, very expensive city. I mean,
well, I mean, like, if that place where like, depending on what your hobby is, like, if that place where you could do your hobby is still in operation or allowed to open.
Yeah.
It's like my gym in the basement just now reopened.
So I've heard this from a few people.
No,
these gyms aren't
the
open.
internet bar down the street that is also in the basement was never closed.
Right. Well, you can't close that. How are they going to play? What is that? The League of Legends or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
it's like, it's hard. It's hard to understand what's going on. The pool, which is on the first floor, always open.
Really?
But the gym in the basement closed.
And the pools have a worse reputation than the gyms. Worse. Horrible reputation.
Well, I think it had to do with ventilation. I think. Like, I don't know. It's like if you, it's like, then just tell them that they have to increase the ventilation. It's like, that's not.
Or empty the pool. Where are we going to put all the water? Good question.
No, but no, so it's those things have been going on. A year ago though, I can't even remember.
It's good. Well,
so I'm sure I was doing stuff.
Yeah, like, because with all these companies that have shut down, businesses, not necessarily companies, but businesses that have shut down, like, I'm just wondering how these people are rebounding at all. And you're much more involved in the arts here in Beijing than I am. Far more.
It's, I mean, last time we talked, we talked a little bit about, like, 798, and, like, last time I went out there, some of the bigger places are closed. I don't know if they're coming back. And a lot of the smaller ones are probably not coming back, so it's like, it's half of what that used to be.
Yeah.
Which is whatever, that'll cycle in or out whichever way that's going to go. But, like, all of that activity, if it doesn't return there, is going to return somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah.
You see that happening?
Well, it could. I mean, it's like, why's it got to be there?
Yeah, 798's horribly expensive now too.
Well,
like,
exactly. It's like it was there just because that's like it used to be cheap.
Yeah.
No, and but there's things happening. I mean, like, live shows are slowly coming back.
Yeah, and I remember we were talking about music as well last time.
Yeah.
You go to these things more than I do.
Yeah, well, some of the clubs that I go to have just literally, like, the last month have started shows A lot of the other kinds of, like the rock shows and the punk shows, like that's not happening as far as I know, or at least not where I would usually go.
Right.
But you have the National Center for the Performing Arts, like the giant concert hall, has been going strong for a while now.
Okay.
And they're like, their shows are like full capacity.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
But are people paying for the tickets? That's
Yeah.
sort of my first question.
Yeah. No, it's like I went to a show there. I went to a couple shows this month, and
A couple?
Yeah.
How do you find the time?
you make time. You make time. No, I need something to look forward to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just what that was. But it's interesting though, because like, it's a fairly large concert hall. Like
It's a huge
the
concert,
the big hall is big. It's like it's the size of like a small sports stadium.
Yeah. What did you see?
Oh, what did I see? I saw one of the things I saw was an opera, like a Beijing opera. I saw some classical pieces, like an ensemble. I missed a piano recital that I had tickets to, but I just couldn't.
Mm-hmm. What drives you to do these things? I mean, you say to give yourself something to look forward to. Because you also go to a lot of art galleries too, don't you?
Yeah. Well, this is like I said though. I like to have at least like one or two things a week to do.
One or two?
Yeah.
Wow, you are a busy man. I don't go out.
Yeah.
But I think we live very different lives.
Yeah, but no, like for example, tomorrow, there's a theater group in Beijing, like an expat theater group. Shouldn't say expat because actually a lot of Chinese are in it, but it's English language theater thing, and they're doing like a seminar basically on the fundamentals of theater, and like I'm going to that tomorrow because why not?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
What are you getting from this? Like all these arts. So it's a lot of arts.
I'm just like honestly, I'm interested in a lot of it, and I'm interested in the way that art, like big A arts, intersect with each other, and how that just how that plays into. I don't want to say culture because that's sounds pompous, but like basically how it plays into the culture.
But is this all Chinese arts, or is it what else?
No, it's a mix. I mean, like at the Egg, the National Center. It's like they have like the symphonies play symphonic music, mostly Western.
Right.
They'll usually throw in like one or two Chinese pieces for the home crowd, and that's fine. In the day before COVID, they would bring in foreign symphonies, foreign ensembles, and that's pretty cool. Different theaters like down in Tianqiao, that area, like they would bring in off-Broadway musical acts.
Right.
So like the touring companies and whatnot, so it's like, you could, like, I saw Chicago there.
Yeah.
I saw Cats somewhere else for the first time.
Right. Wow, so your first time seeing Cats was here in Beijing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen Cats either.
Yeah, it's...
maybe in London. I can't remember.
It's what you think it would be.
What? I don't know. I'm not a theater guy.
I'm not either. It's just it's like I'll go because I think it's interesting. It's like, like I've gone since last year. The Performing Arts Center staged a whole lot of red Beijing opera. So from like the 50s to like the mid 70s, and I saw about a dozen of them.
Wow.
So I'm familiar with the form now.
Right.
It's not my favorite kind of art. It's you kind of know what you're getting before you get there, but It's interesting, because I didn't know anything about it, and now I do. So,
So what is this? I haven't heard of this. I mean, I'm thinking like Soviet Union styles things, but
it's
with Chinese characteristics.
Girl meets a guy, they fall in love, but they join the party,
Right.
and there's whatever evil happening over on the other side of the mountain.
Capitalism.
Well, could be capitalism, could be the Guomindang. You don't know.
Right. Okay.
But like either way, it's we must fight for the cause, and because of that, our love cannot, it can't work, and then one guy dies, or usually the girl dies.
Oh yes, yeah. I think that's
pull
more
the
typical.
heartstrings.
They cry and then they die.
Yeah, of course.
That's your role as a Chinese caste woman.
Well, someone needs to be a martyr.
Yeah, and it's got to be usually it's the women, randomly selected, but typically it's the Chinese woman who cries and dies.
But it's I mean, like, again though, like that's when I do leave here, that's something that I probably won't be able to see. So I'm trying to take advantage of something, that I can take advantage of now here.
You're right, because it's not a very globalized thing. Like Chinese movies, you can. Chinese literature, you can. But something like this, I mean,
it's not going to tour. I mean,
it'd be tough.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to find those hardcore alt-thinking folk in the communes outside of
exactly.
China and Russia to appreciate that sort of stuff. In terms of form, though, okay, so you talked about the story and the plot, but I mean, is it sung Chinese? Like, it's all in Chinese.
Yeah, it's all in Chinese.
So how's your Chinese doing?
Oh, well,
but they give you subtitles, don't they? Not subtitles, the titles on the side.
What I do is I read up on the story.
Oh, wow.
Before I watch it.
You're dedicated.
Yeah, and then I know what's going on, which is actually probably I'm doing just as well as most Chinese listeners, because it's actually hard to follow the words. So because they're singing.
Is it like Peking opera? Like
Yeah.
Beijing opera? So it's that same sort of screechy, sort of decavocable, or what is it, microvocable?
Often.
And you sit through that. How long are these?
Like usually hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay, an hour and a half is doable. That's
Yeah.
a 90-minute art film right there.
Yeah.
Wow. And you went 2 of these, you saw 12 of them. 12 of them.
Yeah, give or take, about a dozen.
Were there many more? I mean...
yeah.
20 years worth of material, I guess.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's but again, like if it's going to be at the egg, like the production will be decent.
Yeah.
It's like if you were seeing this in one of like the small, like Dongbei theaters, for example, like the production level probably wouldn't be as good.
Right.
Although it would be interesting in a different way.
You go to both, though. I mean,
yeah, I don't care.
Why don't you?
Because I have no taste.
Snap.
No, I mean, honestly, like most things live, I think are interesting. Like
because it ends.
Well,
even if it's terrible, it's like, okay, well.
Yeah, I mean, like even if it's terrible, but like usually people are not trying to be terrible.
Yeah.
Usually, and it's like to me that's interesting, because it's like, okay, this is what these people think. Like they think this is good. This is what they want to present. So it's like, even if I don't like it, I'll sit there and like try to like dissect parts of it that are like, to find out where it gets interesting.
Find like sort of salvation. Right? Find the good parts of it, I should say.
Yeah, like I'm not that harsh. Like I think it's all interesting. It's I might not think it's good, but there'll be something interesting.
Yeah. Does any of this stuff spur your own creativity at all, or is it just you're watching it, taking it in, and it disappears?
I think it all filters through. It's like because it's just another aspect of it's just another aspect of your life. And it's like your life should filter into what you're doing. Regardless of what you're doing, like
But you're not into theater. Like you're not producing theater plays or anything. So this is why I find it amazing that you go to these things so much. But it's like you're not.
See, but I might do. You never know. Could be the next project.
You're right. I don't know. So like, is there an idea there? Like, is this what you're doing?
Well,
is like a tacit research?
I did play around with radio dramas because I was listening. way too much to radio dramas a couple years ago. Like that was the only thing that I listened to, and like I wrote a short one that I used for a performance piece that later got done in the States, and like so like that's interesting. I've seen like I used to go to proper theater as opposed to musicals and operas. When I was in the Bay Area, like I would go see theater quite a bit. Like I had season tickets to a couple different companies.
Right.
And I was, like again, like I thought that was interesting. I think it's more interesting than a movie because it's live.
Yeah, I could see it.
It's different. It's clearly not the same form of storytelling, but it's like I think it's interesting. So, who knows?
You have to
Maybe.
clarify this. This is new to me because I'm Canadian Prairie Boy. Subscription to few different theater companies.
Yeah.
The Americans are laughing at me right now.
No, they're not. Most people aren't. No, so okay, like in San Francisco, there's the ACT Theater Company, and they have a theater, and you would buy a subscription, and then you could see like all however many plays they put on in a season.
Right, but there's a few of them. See, my hometown, I think there's like one or two. Like you have, there's the musical theater, there's the Pantages Playhouse. Like each venue sort of had their own sort of season ticket offering, and then
you
whoever
had the
performed.
drama club on campus.
Yeah, I don't know if you bought season tickets for that though. But it just strikes
no offense to drama club kids.
You don't see that here in Beijing, do you? In China, it's not for all the things about subscriptions. They don't have it for theater.
No, and this is not that I've seen, and this is actually something maybe I just haven't looked in the right places, because I was actually hoping to see something like that through the egg just for like classical music.
So it's all just one-off tickets. They don't have.
Well, that's how I do it, because I haven't figured out any other way to do it.
Yeah. Well, they have membership cards, but they don't. They wouldn't sell you a season ticket pass. Like from
it's like you
September to March, you get all these shows or whatever. Thinking of it though, they did all these. There's this huge membership drive in China, and I used to buy a membership to a gym. I stopped doing it because what would happen is that they'd shut down, or the place would shut down.
I'm on my third gym. Yeah.
Not just the gyms, but like the cafes and everything. I'm like, forget it. This is stupid. Like they're just trying to front load their money so they can finance the operations. But as I've learned over the last couple of years, it seems like very few Chinese companies actually make money. Like almost 90% are losing or not making money.
There's a lot of interesting accounting.
I don't think it's even that. I think they're just not making money, and you're going. For all the push that this country has towards, like they have to develop AI and robotics.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way to make it financially viable.
Like the coffee shop that I go to that's just like 2 blocks down from here, it's 3 floors. It's any time of the day you go, there's, it's like probably at like 70% capacity.
Really?
But it's people buying like a single cup of coffee and then holding a 5-hour business meeting.
Right.
And it's like that's how do you sustain?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So going back to the theater subscriptions, I kind of wonder why that hasn't happened yet. Probably because the arts kids are all working at these shops that are selling subscriptions, and they're too busy because they're working 12-hour days. They don't have time to come up with these ideas.
But it's an old idea though. But no, it's interesting though. It's like you would. I would expect that. I wonder, like, there's, there's obviously, like, different theaters that do, like, Chinese plays. Like, I wonder if they work on that model.
Maybe.
My Chinese isn't good enough to do proper drama.
Right. How versed are you in this sort of area, like the Chinese arts versus not, like, the foreigner-facing arts? Like, you seem to know a lot more about the thespian outlay of Beijing and of China, or at least of Beijing, right?
No, I just go to things that I find out about,
How do you find out about it? Beijinger. That's the one I use.
It's one place,
Yeah.
Word of mouth sometimes, like, I don't know. It's sometimes you just like when you're just like walking around and you're just like, oh, okay, that's a theater.
So wait a minute, you're not looking at your cell phone while you're walking around?
I try not to.
You stick out like a sore thumb there, sir. You better be careful. They might find out you're here or something.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's like I'm the guy that actually gets lost in the hutong, though, because I'm not looking at my phone.
Yeah, well, you can still get lost, though, even with the map,
Yeah.
because you're like, that's not right. Oh, and look at Great Leap's right there. Well, decision.
My day done.
My day is done. But so you said that you might, of course, I think you're playing with words here. You might do a theater sort of production. You do a lot of writing, which we never talked about last time. And I was actually a little bit surprised because at the end, that's when it was revealed that you have your own publication, Saginaw. And Saginaw. I think I even asked you how to pronounce it before too. Whoops. But you do a lot of writing, and I know you do a lot of reading as well, and you do this arts consumption. What's your output? What you're filtering this in? It's got to go somewhere.
Well, I work on different projects. A lot of them are writing projects. Some of them might be art projects. Sometimes music projects, although that happens less frequently now than in the past. It's just, honestly, I like to keep busy, and I like to keep busy with things that aren't work.
Right, yeah.
Because work is how you make money, it's not your life.
Yeah.
Some people might not agree, but, no, and so...
Some people like their work. Some people like their work. It might not be the work that some people we know do.
Well, this is, very, very, very early on. Like, I remember when I was first learning writing. Like, at college, I took, like, a couple creative writing classes. And the first one I ever took, the professor, a guy named Clayton Eshelman, kind of a big deal in American poetry, basically, he just said, like, whatever you do, don't make this your job or you'll hate it.
I think he's right. Yeah. I've been talking to Omar yesterday about, he was asking me why I haven't successfully, or why I haven't, like, monetized the podcast and, like, the blog and everything, is because it takes the fun out of it. It really does. It just saps all of the life. I mean, if I could pay someone to sort of take care of that sort of post-production, dealing with, like, just even uploading the files to the website.
No, it changes the focus. Like, I've you mentioned Saginaw a minute ago, and Saginaw, for people that don't know, is literally, it's a zine that I put together. It's 28 pages. I actually staple it.
And you mail
on my living room
around the world.
Yeah, it goes many places, and it does get read. I've like a lot of good writers. Like, every issue is something that I'm actually proud of, but because it's not monetized, because it's a project, I'm not, I don't need 4 issues a year.
Right. How many do you publish per year?
However many.
So it's like this podcast.
Yeah, but this is the thing, though. Like, if you make, like, I've worked on other lit publications that were, most of them were non-profit, but, like, they were certainly worried about, keeping the money coming in to keep, the organization going. And once that gets into the mix, it's a different focus.
Yeah.
And, like, people say, it's like, I understand where people say, like, no, like, it's always about this first. And it's like, well, no, at the end of the day, it's, you need to...
Printing costs, man. Staples.
Mailing even costs. If it's on the web, it's like
hosting fees.
Well, hosting fees. Most designers don't want to work for free.
No.
It's so there's all these things, and if you're if you're, if the publication is trying to like elevate itself as well, you have to pay the writers to, and it's like, and there's all these things, and next thing you know, it's like half of your conversations are about like budgets and schedules, and you're like project managing everything, and like that's it's a whole lot different than doing something because you really like it and you think all these people are cool, and wouldn't it be great to put this all together.
Well, I remember a couple months ago you were talking about, because you were prepping this publication here, and I was suggesting that you get Saginaw online, and you're like, no.
Well, I have put the covers online.
Okay.
And I did that because actually someone on Twitter said, your publication isn't real because there's no online presence, and it was like,
snap.
It was like, it is a physical object.
Well, I guess my argument for it, is to make sure that you have a backup copy. I think that's
learned that lesson.
Yeah, you heard. You always learn it the hard way too.
Yeah, I just something else, but I have for my submissions, so like stuff that I send out because I'm always sending stuff out. I had. I don't know what happened. My Mac updated itself, and I lost my file. So I lost, I had something like 75 submissions out.
Yeah.
And I no longer have the spreadsheet.
So you don't know if you actually got accepted.
Well, no, the emails will come in either way. So I have, I'm like rebuilding it, but it's like it just.
Right.
I was like,
well, that's a good way to sort of purge the ranks, I guess.
Well, no, it's okay. And I also I learned some interesting ways to try to recover things on a Mac. So I did a really deep dig and still couldn't find it. But I learned more about computers than I wanted to. But that's okay.
And you dig up because you have to trawl up all the stuff, all the files. It takes everything. It's very difficult to, unless you know what you're exactly doing. You're just running that sort of.
I'm watching a YouTube video and clicking when he tells me to. Yeah. No, but it's I don't think everything needs an online presence, and in fact, I actually think that online presences often are a lot more temporary than even short-lived physical book, physical publications, because at the end of the day, like Saginaw is in a couple libraries in America,
right?
Because they asked for them, so they're going to be there. Like 20 years from now, they're going to be there. But like some kid that started up.
Do you think so? Because I've seen enough libraries purge their ranks to go, no one's taking these. Not saying that that's going to happen, but even the libraries can have a budget to how much room they can dedicate to this stuff.
But that's ending up in a special collection somewhere.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's not ending up in the stacks.
What about the argument that if you monetized it and then made it into something that's revenue generating, you could donate to the library and then have a special Saginaw section in which your booklets are.
But then it wouldn't be fun. It'd be business.
But then it'd be remembered forever. I don't need that.
Well, no, but at the end of the day, like that's a project I do because I think it's interesting and it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't need to do it all the time because it's not my business. So that when I do it, I'm 100% focused. Yeah. I'm 100% into it, and then put it together, and then ship it out, and then.
How many years have you been doing this for?
Oh, Saginaw?
Don't tell me like 17, 20 years.
No, it's the early 2010s, maybe.
Really? So This is like you're coming up to a 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
Some sort of anniversary.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. And but you've been in China since for most of that.
Yeah, for all of it.
Right.
No, I started Saginaw here.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah.
There's nothing else to do.
Well, it was. Initially, it was one way for me to stay connected to the writing community in the States.
Yeah.
But over time, it's been more of a way for me to introduce different kinds of writing to the poetry community in Beijing, and in now Chengdu and Shanghai. copies go there as well. So, it's a way to introduce stuff that, quite honestly, like they probably wouldn't, know about otherwise, because, it's not like a lot of the writers here are, spending half a day or half a week looking at different websites.
Is there a poetry, like an arts reading community here in Beijing?
Oh yeah, there's Spittoon is
Right.
the collective. There's quite a few different groups, but Spittoon is one. They have a different reading every Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
So like the second Thursday is the fiction reading. The fourth Thursday is the poetry reading. So there's always something going. They also run a poetry workshop. And then there's another writing group that does a fiction writing workshop. And then there's another group that's in Beijing and affiliated with other communities in China, and they put on different. Actually, they're doing a drama, like a series of drama workshops.
Is it the one that you're going to tomorrow?
No, that's a whole separate
one,
thing.
right.
Yeah, so there's actually.
Well, Spittoon does Chinese English. They do it in translation.
The readings and the workshops are in English. Spittoon, the magazine, is Chinese work translated into English.
Right. I actually like that because I have a couple of issues, and I test my Chinese with the translation, and like because some of the translators are talking to them and everything, and one of them, well, they're all multilingual, like it's Chinese, English, and pick another language sort of thing. So it's I find that fascinating in terms of that they're able to do that, and that they got their Chinese to that ability as well. But usually they study Chinese as well at university, or they study translation or something, and they're doing Spittoon because they're like it's one of those things that they can exercise that sort of brain muscle. Have you thought about doing that at all, like getting into that sort of translation stuff to drive your Chinese studies?
Well, I do translation from French into English.
Right. For what? For who? For what?
Just poetry.
Right. Any one publication or?
No, just around. I actually have a translation that I did that I've been trying to shop around, but I'll let you know about that if it ever goes through. No, but my Chinese, this is something. No, I've
We had the same teacher at one point too.
Well, yeah, no, and this is actually something that I play with. I've been looking at the poems of Lei Feng,
right,
who may or may not have existed. The poems are very simple. As far as I can tell, because I actually researched this a bit. They've never been translated into English. His diary has, but not the poems. The poems aren't. The poems have interest other than literary merit.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. But so it's like I've been like slowly playing with that, but it is extremely slowly.
Yeah. Well, Chinese is not a very easy language.
And again,
what dialect, what variation of Chinese is it? It's not modern simplified, is it?
Oh yeah, because he was alive in the 60s.
Okay.
In theory.
Right. How come? Why is he a mysterious figure? He didn't get disappeared, did he?
No. He's like the model communist, and like in elementary schools they have like Lei Feng societies, and it's like basically, he was. The closest that era in China came to having a saint.
Okay.
He's it's like, oh, I knew that your father wasn't doing very well, so I sent him 100 kwai because I knew you were too poor, but I said it was from you, and we're never going to talk about this again.
Right.
Doing things like that, or taking half a day off of his work because like some orphan got lost and he had to help her find her aunt.
Sounds like a nice guy.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. But you read his diary, like, and this is a guy who, died very early, like 23, but you read his diary, and like for someone to do all the things that are attributed to him,
Helping an orphan around the neighborhood.
well it just,
Okay.
and it's like the diary and the poems came out a little bit after his death.
Right.
So people have questions.
Right. Okay.
But anyway,
what was the diary about? Like
not just his life, like um, in the army unit today, this guy showed me how to like shoot my rifle. I will shoot my rifle, real good for Chairman Mao.
Do you think there's value in those types? I'm thinking exactly of my blog because like I've been keeping
Yeah. The thing
tracking my
I
travels for
find
that
it
long.
interesting. Like I actually, as like if study wise, it's like if you're interested in the Cultural Revolution, which I kind of am. I find it interesting.
I think we all have a morbid fascination with it.
Well, yeah, it's so it's a document of the era, and it shows you a lot of the things that they valued. The diary especially shows you what they thought, the model citizen should be, which is, again, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And so, if you're looking at it, from that angle, there's interest, but
Reading it purely for what it is. Would it
exactly.
be interesting or not?
Nah, it's short.
Okay. Have you thought about doing something like that? Just jotting down daily sort of. I had this idea of doing this in Beijing, like a real time, because I think what was it? Was it George Soros who also did this? Alchemy of Finance. He just documented what he did in the stock market. I thought about doing that here in Beijing. Like today, I woke up at 6:21, and just list everything. But I mean, I have a daily audio digest that I yak about this stuff.
There's a guy who did that. His name is Kenny G. Different Kenny G, but Kenny G. And he basically did exactly that. Like he made a whole book about every single thing he did on one day.
Right.
He like audio recorded like every single movement, and it's again, like as a document, it's very interesting. As a read,
something to be desired. I guess.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. No, this is the thing though. Is like, if you did document like every single thing that you did, it's like, would you force yourself to try to be interesting?
I don't know, because a lot of stuff I do, I mean, it's pretty standard. I actually, some of the things, like, I don't even record my workouts sometimes, because I'm like, I just do the same thing. Like, I have a certain schedule I follow.
Yeah.
And so, like, I could write that, but it would be what I do, like, every day. Every Monday I do that. Every Tuesday I do that.
Yeah.
It's like, even my food I eat, it's very similar. It doesn't change very much. And I find there's great liberation in that, because I don't have to think as very much.
Well, I'm a big fan of routine.
Do you think your daily routine is going to change in the future at all?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully.
It
But
might.
you are also one of these people who's sort of talking about leaving China at some point. Like, can China be home for you? Do you think?
No.
Why not?
Um,
Exasperated. No.
No, I mean, like, honestly, it's interesting. Okay, like, so if anyone moves to like New York after 20 years, they're a New Yorker. You could live your entire adult life here, and you would still be an outsider.
You're always that foreigner. I think of the bar owners. I
Yep.
think of some of our colleagues who've left as well.
Yeah.
It's like you're always even fluent in Chinese.
Yep.
Oh, his Chinese is pretty good. It's like, yeah, I think so. He wrote the textbook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, someone that we both know, musician Steve Black.
Yep.
Very fluent. Spent a real long time here. Like, I think we're talking...
Late 90s he showed up.
Yeah, it's like, 30 years?
And how was he escorted out of the country? Well, he wasn't escorted. I mean, how did he leave? I mean, it was...
Well, no, that's, that's separate. But, the thing is like, even then though, it's like he communicated well. He talked to people. He had friends and whatnot. But at the end of the day, not a Beijinger.
Right. Even after 30 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
30 years, yeah. So is that something that sort of prevents you from thinking that?
No, but
here?
it's something that I'm aware of,
Right.
and
because I think of some of the other people we know, and they're talking about green cards, and there are a few people who are like, China in their heart, and they're going to stay.
Well, no,
and I'm like,
good
wow.
For them. No, honestly, like good for them. Like you find a place that you like, and this is what you want. Like, why would you move? But it's.
I'm also guessing they're not annual contract renewal ESL teachers. I'm thinking their contract is a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And that they might have some options into their employment. I think it's very difficult to sort of. Like Omar and I were talking about this yesterday about the change of type of foreigner that this country wants.
Yep.
It has shifted. And he mentioned all these sciences and stuff like that. And I'm of the opinion that it's more like robotics and automation, AI and stuff like that. But then you hear about all the layoffs that happened in the last year. All the tech companies are laying off because they hired too many people. There might be also a quality issue in there somewhere. But going forward, for you, like in China, if you were to stay, do you see yourself staying in the ESL industry, or could you pivot? Could you do more of the arts, or could you do something else?
I think it would be difficult to get into the arts just because of, like, I don't have the academic credentials that would fit in with...
Could you get them?
Dude. Probably, but why would I do that now?
Well, what sort of credentials? Like, we're talking like MA of Fine Arts or something?
Yeah. Or something in, like, museum studies or archiving or, something that actually... would tick the box,
right?
Because that's you've been here long enough. Getting the visa is literally about ticking enough boxes so that you have enough points.
I asked one one agency about what it would take to change. It wasn't changing the visa. Well, I was asking about business visas. And they didn't seem to understand what I was asking. I'm like, I just want a business visa. Like, what does a business visa do? And she's like, well, what do you mean you don't know what it does? If you don't know, then why do you need one? I'm like, this is why I was asking.
Yeah.
But it was also about getting into media, because I see quite a few foreigners and I've met a lot of working for CGTN, right? And a company like that, or other media broadcast. They're not your typical English teachers. Some of them still are, and they're moonlighting. But at the same time, I was wondering how you'd shift the visa. And she's like, well, you need to prove either 2 years professional experience, or you need like a degree, and I think plus some experience or something like that. So it was like, and I'm sitting here going, what counts as experience? Like me having my own YouTube channel, or is it something else, right? And so... is that something that you could build up as well if you want to stay in China, or are you saying?
I've worked at media here. I worked at China Radio.
Right.
It's, that
was so many years ago.
Yeah, dude. I'm not worried about that. Like that's I've got like enough editorial experience to where I could do that if I wanted to.
Right. Would they look at that and go, why not?
Yeah.
So you don't even need credit. You have the credentials.
Yeah.
So could China be home? No. Still no. Still can't be a Beijing.
It's at some point, like this is, it's. I've been here a while.
Yeah.
At some point it might be nice to do something else, somewhere else.
What if it was not Beijing? Like if you could go somewhere, because I've thought about this. Like, I used to think that once you came to Beijing, that was sort of like your last stop. It was either Beijing or nothing afterwards. I'm starting to think, like, what if that changed? Like, especially with the COVID sort of situation. How many amenities do you need from the Western world? How fast of an internet connection do you need? What are you doing? Is there an idea to relocate within the country to a place that would still not treat you as a complete...
if you're going to go to some village in Gansu, you might as well just move to rural Manitoba.
A little different, I think. but I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. I would not do that. It would. Well, would I? Would I move to rural
Friday night
Manitoba?
hockey. Come on.
Yeah, even during the summer because they need something for those guys to do, right? I don't know if I could survive in that, but I mean, living in rural China would be a lot different experience than living
No, of course
rural
it would.
Manitoba.
Of course it would. But that's and again that might like I know people who actually that was their entrance into China was working in some like village school.
Yeah,
Their first year or two.
but they would move up
Yeah.
to Beijing. That's what I'm saying. It's like you come to Beijing, you're sort of you're. Where else do you go
Well, yeah, but I mean,
except Shanghai?
no, it's just well, honestly though, it's like in the States, like the same argument would be like, oh, you've lived in New York, like the only other place you would move is L.A., and it's like, well, no,
Really?
yeah,
Or people move back to their hometown. Do they ever like relocate to another city? Like Austin, Texas is huge now.
oh, yeah, it's just too expensive. No, people are moving.
Really?
Yeah.
It was only a year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, it's been like a decade in the making. No, but yeah, in the States, people that I know who've moved to New York, and I'm one of them. Almost nobody moves back to their hometown. You move somewhere else.
Where did most of them flee to after?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's a big country. Plenty of cities to pick.
Yeah. I was thinking actually about moving to the States. I thought it'd be a fantastic experience. I was kind of concerned about if I was married to a Chinese woman, like how that would sort of play out. I would love to do a road trip across the southern parts of the States, like right across Florida to California. Again,
I've done that. Yeah.
but you probably didn't do it in the time of current social media insanity.
No.
Yeah, so there's a couple things, like I still kind of look at the United States and go, as for all the things and negativity that's heaped upon the country, I kind of go, it still holds a fascination. A lot of people want to go there. A lot of people would want to move there. And I look at China, where you see an exodus of people. It's not even just one or two a month. It's every week there's someone else. Like, you're leaving? What do you mean you're leaving? When are you leaving? In 12 days. What?
Yeah.
What?
But I mean, honestly though, it's in ESL, which we're in, even before all of this, the normal shelf life of an ESL job in China was like 2.5 years.
Even at the university level, I feel that
Yeah,
those
yeah.
guys would go longer.
No.
ESL proper, not subject specific. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if you can make that conversion though, that transition. Difficult. You'd have to actually have a degree from, like you do. You need to
Yeah.
have like a degree that they're actually gonna want you to teach or something
Yeah.
like that. So. All right. So I mean, so basically, you're saying that China's not home. What is
Well,
your?
no,
You didn't want me to
no,
ask,
but
but I
this-
gotta ask what your timeline is. I mean, you talking like 2 years, 10 years? You're not a green card holder.
No.
Okay, so every year you're looking at a new contract renewal, so
Yeah.
it's like you're in the same boat as me. It's like 3 months prior, you're kind of like, manager hasn't asked just yet. And you're like, I hope he doesn't, but hope he does, so you have that hedge.
Yeah, I don't worry about that. I just wait and then tell them.
Yeah.
No, it's. I always look around for the different opportunities that are in other places. Like I actually, not actively look for other work, but I do look to see what the market is. I do look to see where I'm at compared to what other things are paying, what other benefits that they're getting, that sort of thing. If I found something...
Can I ask how that's going? Like, what are people, ESL teachers, because I mean, I was thinking that now is the golden time to be in China, an ESL teacher or a school teacher, because you can get paid tons of cash.
It is. It actually, like, I saw a job posted here, actually, that was housing in like $40K.
Before tax. After tax, you're looking at $30K.
Yeah.
But that's including housing, so
Yeah.
you're making $30K.
Yeah.
You're probably living in a nice neighborhood too.
Shuni somewhere.
Oof. Okay, that's far. And you have to keep on telling people I live in Shuni.
Yeah. No,
So,
you just say Wang Jing.
Wang Jing.
Fool them.
Yeah, until you mention what ring road you have to go past.
No, but so for me, like, if I found something that was decent, I like, this might be my last year.
Right.
If I don't, like, I'm not in a hurry to leave.
Right. Yeah.
But if conditions are right, I would take an opportunity if I saw it.
Yeah. So, like, I was saying that people ask me, like, why am I still here? And I'm going, where else am I going to go? I don't look, though. Like, I am horrible on that. I don't.
Oh, see, I always, I've always done that, like, since high school.
Okay, so you keep track of the market.
Yeah.
See, I'm bad. I just kind of go with whatever
It's like, this job sucks. Why am I working this job?
Really? Oh, I'm like, this job sucks. How much worse can it get? What's my breaking point? But then I also have all these other things I keep on doing as well, which is, I see what you're doing as well. I mean, this is why we agreed to get together, is this bad boy right here. There you go.
There we go.
So there's your publication. This is your first publication.
It's my first full length. Yeah.
Okay, and it's 50 pages.
Yeah.
Chatted wall. Yeah. Well, full length.
It's color.
It is. And it's a very unique. I actually.
It could have.
My first comment.
It could have easily been 100 pages if it weren't color.
Right. So it was a cost decision.
It was partly a cost decision. It was also, like, quite honestly, these are the 50 best out of the group. We were talking a little bit earlier about this. So this is called Maze Poems. It's out by. Actually, I don't know how to say that.
Arteidolia.
Arteidolia, or something like that.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Arteidolia.
It's a great press out of New York.
Yes.
And it's I'm very, very happy with everything about how the publication turned out. What it came from nice. Is I bought a notebook from across the street from the National Art Museum, a big sketchbook, big square thing that's like literally that big. I don't know centimeters, but and I would do these. Oh, these are called maze poems because they're mazes. So the way that it worked would be I would actually draw the maze first. And then I would do automatic writing, which is you just write.
Right. Okay.
Like you don't stop. You just do it.
Not free form.
Yeah, it's like free writing.
Form?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. And so then the mazes became the actual physical shape of the thought.
Okay.
Which I found interesting.
So you drew the maze. You closed off the maze. You didn't you drew a circle around it. You encapsulated it, or did you leave the border out and then?
What you're looking at is what it looks like in the notebook.
Yeah.
So.
But you didn't draw the border. So my point is like, because you started going, but did you had the initial maze? Did you reach the end and go, that letter's too long?
No.
Okay.
No, it's actually it's amazing because it controls. This is what I'm saying. Like, it actually controls the shape of your thought because you get to a point. And
how much longer you have.
Yeah,
it's like a tweet. Because you want to hit that, you don't want to go multiple tweets.
It's amazing. And the more that you do it, the easier it gets.
Right. Succinctness. You learn to develop that sort of succinctness.
So I like that aspect of it. But another aspect of this that I like is the fact that it takes... the reader actually has to go through the maze and then... chunk the different words out and make sense of it, on their own. And so the reader is inputting a lot to the meaning. And I honestly, I think for some of these, I think it's honest to say that it'll probably take more time to read than it took to write. I
would say so. I was trying to read them before, and how long did it take me?
I find that I find that very interesting because it's there's a lot of like critical theory out there about like reader response and reader input and context creation and like all this academic stuff, and I think this actually
challenges that.
I think it's I think it's an interesting part of the conversation with how this is actually working and what this actually is.
Do you like that stuff? The academic sort of analysis of creative literature?
I do.
Do you like the Creative Quarterly or whatever it is? Creative Writing Quarterly, published by Oxford. You're like, that doesn't scream of young punk poetry writing.
No, I actually I'm a big fan of theory in the same way that I like to read philosophy. Like, I don't necessarily agree with any of it, but I like to see how people try to make things work.
Right. Yeah. So one of the reasons I think I have a classics degree, and I just remember.
Yeah. So you know.
Well, that was part of it, and I mean, I kind of stumbled into classics, and I just kept on going on with it, knowing full well that I'm like, I don't really fit in here. But the way that classics was, especially about 10, 15 years ago, it was a lot more. They were all just analyzing texts. It was just rereading the same 50 major authors, or maybe you'd find some obscure author, write some obscure paper in an obscure journal that no one would ever read, and that would be your publication.
And that's your career.
And I'm just going, no, that's not going to happen. I mean, traveling, like travel blogging, that's more just talking about whatever. I hammered last night, and wherever it is in Bangkok again, so whatever bar that was. But so you like the academic sort of analysis, but you also have the output as well in maze format.
Yeah, and I mean, like, honestly, I think by looking at that, you can tell that I was having fun.
Yes.
And that I think is a very important aspect of the projects that I do. You know, because, like, if you're not having fun, you know, especially for something that you're doing outside of your work, you know, like outside of whatever you think your career is, you know, it's like, it should be fun, yeah?
You're now that guy. Have you seen anything else like this before?
No.
So you're now that guy. When someone walks into a bookstore, and it's not going to be from that, they might see it from that angle, but they might see it this way, or lying down on a table, and they're going to pick it up, and they're going to flip it open. And like we were talking about the theater, someone thought this was a good idea.
Yep.
You were that guy who thought this was a good idea.
I still think it's a good idea.
I actually don't disagree with you. I think it is a neat idea for sure. And with that, I kind of look at this and go, yeah, you're right. It's like a tweet. You have to think about what word you're going to use in order to best convey the thought that's going on at the moment. So how much does this thing cost?
I think it's 16 in the States.
US dollars?
Yeah.
Renminbi?
Yeah.
7 million renminbi?
No, renminbi, it'll be like probably 100 just to keep it easy.
And then like 1,000 Canadian dollars. I'm joking. What times, what is it, 72 cents now, I think it is? Canadian dollar. Roughly around there.
Oh, is it back down that way?
Yeah, the US dollar's been going up. It's 109.
Yay.
US dollar, Canadian dollar's down to 72 or something like that. So if you were holding cash, you're doing well. If you're not, then not doing so well.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for this? Like, what was sort of like we were like, I'm going to do this?
Well, it's a while ago, like in the early 2000s, I would actually write my friends letters that were something like that.
Wow, so you're that guy.
Not every letter, mind you, because I actually wanted to keep corresponding with friends.
Well, not another one of these. So.
Yeah. No, and so it's a form that I had played with, earlier, and then like I said, I actually bought 2 notebooks from across the street from the art museum, and that's what I decided I would use one of the notebooks for. So I just started one day and just kept going till I finished the notebook.
Right. Have you found any spelling mistakes?
There are all kinds of.
I'm not gonna lie. That's what I'm looking for. I'm like, come on, find one. I think it'd be funny. Come on. But it's difficult enough to read it as it is.
Well, and it's all written by hand. So if I spell something wrong, that's just how I spell it.
But it's not even just that you wrote it by hand. You wrote some of the letters backwards. I mean, some of them, like you've changed the direction of some of these the letters. At least it looks like that. Or maybe I'm just not reading your handwriting. You're writing correctly, but I mean, yeah. No, I don't. No, they're not written backwards. It's just that the idea that you have to read them backwards. They are
Well,
the
this is
letters
the
are
thing.
the right way, but you have to
And
make
this is
sense
the
of it
thing.
in
Like
reverse
honestly,
order.
if this were like Chinese, they would have no problem reading it
I'd be
because
like, this is so easy.
yeah, exactly. I mean, no, it's one of the interesting things of an alphabet language. Yeah.
Right. It does look like a jumble. Like it does.
Well,
I think one of my first comments was like, "Oh, that's a good ESL activity."
it's. I think it might be.
Search a word.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think students would love this. I mean, I think there's a secondary market here. I mean, but that's just I'm joking around here. But 50 out of 150, is that your
135. Yeah.
130, is that your ratio, like to get something decently, to read? Because
I would have been happy doing the whole book.
yeah, but
But
every
it would have
creative
ended
is.
up. It would have ended up being like a $30 book, and
Right.
at the end of the day, it came down partly to cost, partly I used different color pens in the notebook, and so to keep it unified,
Only the blue ones.
we chose the best of the blue ones.
Oh, okay.
And then there were other considerations, but keeping it color it was actually Randy Silv is the name of the editor, and it was the publisher's idea to keep to one put it in color, because I originally thought that it would be in black and white. Like when I was sending this out,
That'd be hard to read.
it would have looked different, and it
Right.
would have been presented differently. But it had never occurred to me that doing it in color was an option.
Right.
And they were like, no, you need to, this would be better in color, and because it's in color, it would be better if we, kept it like all the same color. Cause
All the same color.
some of them are like purple pens, some of them are like blue, and then some are black.
And there's no mistakes though. Like, are there any that you have mistakes? Like,
Oh, of course, they didn't make it.
Okay, right.
Right, that's the point of selecting.
Right. So I mean, 'cause before you were saying, you don't want to.
Well, actually, there's one in here. It's not.
What page number?
All of them. No, like that one right there, that maze where there's the open space. Like that wasn't actually what I think I had in mind when I put that there. But now that it's there and it's filled in, I actually think that that's visually the most interesting one of the book. So,
Well, it stands out when
Yeah.
you're flipping through it.
there are no page numbers. Thank you for mentioning that. And the reason for that is because in the actual notebook itself, the numbers for the different mazes wouldn't correspond to the actual page numbers,
Right.
and I thought it would be just better not to confuse things.
And I was thinking that'd be, wouldn't that be, an extra little layer? But then it kind of, maybe it's more pretentious at that point. It's like you could just put up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have enough to work with here. We don't need any more.
Well, and that's, I mean, like, the way that I imagine that people will be reading this, I don't think this is the kind of book that you take to the coffee shop and blow through in an afternoon.
Yeah, you don't go from the beginning to the end. You kind of flip through and go, okay, that one looks challenging.
Yeah.
I can do that right now.
Yeah.
Right. It's an engrossing, engaging book. I mean, because you do have to pay attention to what's going on. It is, physical as well. Is this something that you like? Are you still doing these?
No.
So this is done.
Notebook's done. Project's done.
That's it? One publication? 1 out of every 5 poems you're publishing? 1 out of 3 poems?
Well, before the book came out, I sent them out for publication to different ones. They're acknowledged And so it's like, they've been around, and yeah, now like that is something that I worked on for like a year and a half, 2 years,
Right.
and that project is done.
Poem, like the maze poems, or like
Yeah, yeah.
getting it published.
No, just actually doing the notebook took me about that long.
So this is your COVID project, 2018. You started.
Yeah. So it was before that.
So you finished 2020.
Yep.
2020. And so for the you were shopping it around after that, or
No, this is what's really amazing is, the publishers have an online journal called Swifts and Slows, and they it's a intermedia type publication, so it needs to be a collaboration, and it needs to be like two arts working together.
right?
And I had done something with them before this, and I had also sent them one of the maze poems to see if if they knew someone who wanted to maybe do something else with it, to make it intermedia and
Something else.
collaborative, and that didn't happen. But they liked it, and I was like, basically like, oh, you like it? I've got a whole manuscript.
I've got more of these.
Yeah, and it was like, and I looked, and I looked at what they published, and I was basically like, is this something you might want to publish? And they were like, yeah, send it along, we'll take a look.
Mm-hmm.
And then there you go, like that's.
Do you have any of these available online for people to take a look at? I know you have the you have the promo piece up there. Is there anything else?
I mean, if they go to the website.
What is your website? It's not here, is it?
Yeah, we'll put a link somewhere on your.
Is it the Arteidolia?
Yeah, .com.
Okay, so it's their website, not your own website. Because you were setting
up. Website. Yeah, I've got my own website, but you can go to their website and like take a look around, because they've got other interesting stuff as well.
Right.
And yeah, so I was looking around at the kinds of books that they published, and so I thought I would just ask, which is not usually how people get published, I guess.
I don't know. I think there's something to be said about asking, right? Having the wherewithal to do it.
Well, I thought the answer was going to be like no, or our submission period is, he was like, yeah, we'll take a look, and I was like, holy smokes, okay.
Well, how many people work for this company, this publishing press?
Small.
Right. This is published out of New York. I mean,
yep.
Home of the arts, aside
Yeah.
from Los Angeles. I mean, so it's proper.
They're legit. I mean, it's good. I mean,
well, I've been to their website.
You're looking at this, yeah.
It's
like it's
been
nice.
to their website. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not like some slapshod publication. Yeah, I got a blog.
It's not some guy stapling a zine on his living room floor.
Not at all. They actually have a website that you can go to and check it out.
That's right.
But you've brought a second book here as well. So what is this?
Oh yeah, this was just one of the other poets in Beijing that I know. His name's Edward Wragge.
Edward Wragge. Oh, you mentioned this guy before.
Yeah,
right
and I think that one's his third book, if I'm correct.
Right.
And yeah, it's he was just like he's actually been really nice and generous, and I was gonna bring him up if we were talking about the poetry scene, and then you brought it up, and then I didn't. So I'm glad you.
Poem by
circled
Donald
back.
Trump.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's on page 22-23. I haven't learned yet how to write poetry. It's capitalized. But I'm a very quick learner. Very quick, and I'll have the best people. Okay, he's playing on the words best and everything.
Yeah.
January 2016.
But I like this. I like this collection because it's there's a lot of different kinds of poems. So like with some he's like playing around, and in some it's
straight ahead.
Like being more serious and poemy, and I kind of like that mix.
Right. He has a poem here called In Flight. I have a blog post. I wrote about the flight from Shenyang to Beijing. And it was like one of those things where I documented everything that happened. I don't think anyone read it.
It's like kid coughed again.
Lady sneezed on me in the subway. I see detritus on my leg.
Yeah.
I refuse to touch it at the moment. I feel gross. And this was at the beginning of the trip, too. But Beijing to Shenyang, and I think I did the reverse as well, because I had to do the two parts. For David, hope you enjoy exploring this volume.
Yeah.
Right, 2021. So how did you meet Edward Wragge?
I met him at one of the Spittoon poetry readings.
Right. So he's on the scene. He's in the scene.
Yeah, he used to apparently, before I got involved with them, he used to be more active, but he shows up to things.
What does he do in his day job? Don't tell me he's an ESL teacher.
He actually hosts wine tasting, and he's like a professional sommelier.
Oh, right. So he does poetry, does wine tasting, but he's matching wines with food.
He's training people
to do it.
To do that, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
No, so it's like being a teacher trainer, except for wine.
Right. Has he been in Beijing like a long time as well?
It seems like.
Is he one of these like 20-year people? 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years at least.
Well, debut collection, Force That Takes, 2013, won the 2012 Cinnamon Press Poetry Award. Second volume, 2017, 4 years later. Charted the transformations of a resurgent mainland China. Wow, that's 2017, that's when I came back to China. So that was Exploring Rice. So this is his third book then, right?
Yep.
So do you take inspiration from this guy's work, that he has a day job and he's doing poetry at the same time, or... What's his...
No, I just respect it, and I like the fact that people are active in the scene. Like, honestly, like, Beijing really isn't known, I guess. Well, maybe they're known. Maybe they're getting known. Maybe they could be getting known. No, so for example, like in Hong Kong, like the English language writing community there is huge, and it's known.
And
you
and China is known through Hong Kong movies that were made in Hong Kong in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. No, but it's I think that the scene here is a lot more active than people are aware, and I think that a lot of the work that's actually getting done is like good. I think that's good. I think a lot of other work that other writers, have been doing are really good, so it'd be nice to see a little bit more attention maybe come this way.
Do you think that would keep you here? I'm going back to that question again.
Man.
Not that I'm demanding that you stay or suggesting.
It's there are other scenes. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading Saginaw, at least one issue of it, and I think I mentioned it to you, and I was actually kind of impressed by what it was. That you'd collated this, curated it, and it didn't read like a stapled together rag.
No, the writing quality is like 1,000,000 times higher than the production value.
The production value, yes, 100%.
No, and that's intentional,
Do you have anything else in the works? Like, what's the next step from this?
I have another poetry manuscript that is more traditional looking poetry.
Right.
That I'm sending out and trying to get something with. I've had quite a few of the poems in that manuscript have been published already, so that would be nice. Mm-hmm. That would actually be really nice. And then with other projects, who knows? Like, after I go to that drama thing tomorrow,
would you dare make a theater production?
Yeah, of course I would.
One man, two man?
Why not a full cast?
Lots of difficulties.
Yeah,
I can't deal with that many people anymore.
Yeah.
Since we've started working from home, I'm like, this is actually kind of nice.
Yeah, but if you're the playwright, you don't need to be the director or the producer.
But then how do you craft the scene and make sure that they do what they're supposed to on cue?
With trust?
in the exact emotion that you wrote it.
With trust?
Oof, that's trusting. The
No, and this is actually like you had him on before, like Donnie Fan. Like
only 3 episodes ago, but 6 months ago, yeah.
no, but it's amazing. Like he managed, although he got a producer and then seems like he did everything himself.
Yeah. Well, he was doing. Yeah, he did have a producer, but he was still
Yeah.
not micromanaging. But he did take him. But it was his.
Yeah.
It was his production.
Yeah. No,
And he's transitioned from doing tragedy and he's doing comedy now. He's been around the country
Oh, yeah.
with it. Like seeing
Yeah.
what that guy's doing now.
No, he's producing, like if they get the funding up, they're going to produce something that's actually going to get like shown on TV in the States.
Yeah. Well, him and his buddy Kay Gambit,
Yeah,
who was
yeah.
also on the podcast. He's a fucking hilarious guy. I mean, those two, that duo. I mean, that actually gives me some hope of what's happening in Beijing in
This
terms
is what
of.
I'm saying. It's like there's an energy here. It's just it doesn't radiate out much.
Do you think it's foreigner driven, or is it the city, or what is it?
No. I mean,
Because there's not many foreigners left, and I mean, it's like you got to make.
well, I mean,
You were locked
honestly-
down for a month. Is
Yeah.
this what happens? Like, do you don't?
Well, I mean, partly, but with at least with the writing, like when I do go to the writing workshops, half the table are locals,
Right.
sometimes more. When you go to the readings, like a lot of the readers are local, even though they're reading in English, which is I honestly am amazed at how well.
And they are reading in English. Like,
Yeah.
they're fluent.
Yeah, they're writing in English, they're reading in English, and it's usually at a really good level, and that's nothing but admiration for that. Like I can't imagine flipping that and then you having to write poetry in Chinese and then also deliver it in Chinese to
But we know people who can do that.
Yeah.
Isn't that bizarre? Like,
Yeah.
I do find it bizarre that someone would care that much.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what prevents me from learning the language that much. I think, who was I talking to about the connection between language and culture? Like, do you need to adopt the culture in order to learn the language? And the consensus was like, no. You can still use it as a tool. Not all the English speakers out
Yeah.
there, or English learners, are
Yeah.
adopting the way of Trump or
Yeah.
anything else, or for any other mainstream trend or whatever it is. Well, I mean, yeah, to do that in Chinese would be fantastic. How are your Chinese studies doing? Does that drive you? Does it inspire you at all?
It's they've taken a back burner to other things at the moment. But now that things are beginning to slow down for me, like it's time for me to start picking the books back up.
Right. I mean, because you're seeing these Chinese kids, and they're probably kids. I mean, they're probably younger than you. But well, how old are these poets that are going to these writings, these workshops?
Like usually after some are still in university, but not too many. They're mostly like working professionals, and this is what they're doing in their free time.
Right.
And I find that amazing. Like I really do. Like I respect that.
And we need that. We need to meet those people, don't we?
Well, it helps.
It helps to see the humanity sometimes.
Well, and this is it, and it's
Being
also,
an English teacher, you get inundated with the same answer. How do I just pass this test? And you're like, well, you could care, or you could just memorize your answer. Go ahead and memorize the answer. This is easier. IELTSadvantage.com. Go there. I like his stuff. His stuff is very good. But looking at them, is it inspiring that these working professionals spending their time?
Yeah.
I mean, they've dedicated they've spent most of their younger years studying a language that they I don't care, but then they learned it anyway. Oh, full respect to that.
No, it's really interesting, and also, I mean, if you think about all the work that went into getting them to the point that they're at, to where they're able to do that, it's like that is
Subtleties as well with poetry.
that is not a small amount of work. It's like
not to Chinese learners, but any language student, especially humor, is very difficult.
Yeah.
But satire depends on context. You can usually guess if they're being serious or not. But I mean, when you're looking up dictionary words, direct translation of like how do you say Trump is a dick, or like I hate my president, sort of that. I mean, not my president. Well, what do you mean by that? Is that direct translation or anything like that? But even though I didn't really have an issue with him at all, whatever. But to have that ability to be able to do it, I look at that and look at my Chinese studies and go, so much. Even the idiomatic language.
Yeah. Well, that's
we hear it all the time. It's a dog eat dog world. How do you say that in Chinese? How do you actually use it so it doesn't sound like you're just using an idiom to sound smart or hit a certain level, right? Good question. So then going forward, who knows if you're in China in a year from now, 2 years from now, you're publishing stuff. You got another couple ideas in the works. What are some of the things that you see going forward, like for yourself, for Beijing, China?
I used to be the kind of person that had like a 5-year plan,
right,
and would do it.
But you're a young guy. You haven't had too many of those 5-year plans, have you?
Well, I've had them since like I was like 15. No, but it was like whatever. Like when I was at university, it's like, okay, in the next 5 years, I'll get a teaching gig. I will do this. I will do that. And that's been the focus. And I don't have one now.
Right.
Partly because there's really I don't see much of a point of making hard set plans when everything is fluid.
Right. Is that because of the situation here?
Yeah,
or?
Partly because it's like, with the situation here, and without talking too much about it, it's like.
We don't need to talk about it. People are hearing about it.
Well, yeah, but no, it's like. Like as an American with the tensions that were happening here, it's like, well, am I still going to be welcome here in a year? Not a given. Is my job still going to be here in a year? Not a given.
Right.
Would I even want any of the other jobs that would be available to me? Maybe, but not a given, so it's, it's hard to make, definitive plans,
right.
So it's like...
So you're open now, you're pretty much...
Well, it's, I can see different scenarios, and they all play out very, very differently, and they would all be okay.
Right.
Like, I'm not...
What would be the strangest scenario that you have playing out properly?
Ending up living under a bridge with a whole bunch of, vets.
Yeah, but that's
not
so
happen.
extreme. That's such a...
No, but, there's, different things I think about. It's like... When I'm listening Friday nights, actually Saturday mornings here, but Friday nights when I'm listening to internet radio and getting some sort of high school hockey game out of somewhere in Western Ontario, you're just like, huh.
The world's such a big place. Why do I stay here? That's actually been something that I've been thinking about.
And it's and there are places that I haven't been that I might like to go to. I don't know if I would like to live there and work, and this is another thing too. It's like, it might be time for a gap year.
What? You're too old for a gap year.
You're never too old for a gap year.
You're supposed to have shit figured out already, man.
Yeah, dude. That could be the play.
The gap year is the play?
Yeah.
Every city is a different actor.
Well, no, you don't have to travel around in a gap year. It's just you don't have anything particular to do that year.
Where would you be in that year, though? Because it's
probably somewhere small and rural.
But it couldn't be China because of the visa situation.
Yeah, it couldn't be here.
So this is what I sort of hit into sometimes, where it's like I'd love to take some more time off, and even becoming a student, but I go, well then I can't, because to switch it would be the visa. It just makes sense to just work less.
You're doing a Hong Kong run that you might not come back from.
Yeah, no, not happening. Not happening.
No, it's I've known people who've done the switch to, doing the language study full time.
Yeah.
And there's
but
pros to it.
I would just work less.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
And that's, yeah.
And I don't want to move. I'm lazy. It's terrible. It's very... I've also got these things set up, right? So, I'm working on this quite a bit as well.
Yeah, your plants are finally looking good.
Well, I had to prune them, or I had to pull out a bunch of the dead leaves. I had to change the soil. I killed my cactus. I call this guy Jerry. He's now in 2 parts because the original one, he was doing really well, and we had him. We put him in that pot up there, and that killed him because as a cactus, he doesn't like being soaked.
Yeah.
And
Cactus 101. Yeah.
What? Okay, and then so we put him into like a bigger pot like that one over there, and that kind of did him in. So, but I hold out hope for him. I just changed that soil this past week because I see on the tip of one of those is another little green sprout, and I'm like, "Come on, baby!"
Yeah.
Because
Nice.
he's been there since before I moved in. He actually inspired me to write a short story, which I was going to actually send to you, about the cactus in the room that sucks out the blood of the people before, and the cops come in, they're like, the hell happened?
Yeah.
And there's just a cactus sitting in the corner of the room. Crazy stuff. He inspired it. But
Nice.
now he's died, and he's trying to come back to life. I hope he can. I hope I don't kill this one.
Yeah.
But those are the 2 remaining little stems from that cactus. All the other ones I just bought within the last year or so. One other question about publication, being a foreigner here in Beijing, is it easy to do this, being based in Beijing with some of the blocks that we have, some of the restrictions? How do you work around them? How do you get around this sort of stuff? And how do you maintain this dichotomic life between like the United States, China, and like the rest of the world?
I get up early.
Okay.
No, honestly, 12-hour time difference between here and the East Coast.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty easy though. That's a nice.
Yeah. So it's like
nice
if you get up at like 5 or 6, you get a couple hours where you can be talking to people in the evening.
Yeah.
No, as far as like the publishing bit of it goes, like this is something I'm trying to navigate right now because I would really like enough of these books to sell so that the publishers can fund the next project. Hopefully do better than that, but like that's the minimum goal that I have for this, and so that means promoting, and if you're in the States, you could easily do something like get like a 30-day Greyhound pass, and try to do a book tour, like organize something like that, so you're doing like different poetry readings in different places. It's a lot of work to organize, but that's something that's doable.
Mm-hmm.
Being in China, that's less doable. If this were 2020, it would be easier because then everyone was doing Zoom readings.
Yeah.
But those have fallen out of favor.
Oh, okay.
Well, because people can actually now go in person. Some communities are still doing that, so that's actually something that I need to start looking into because that's, again, I could do that quite easily. Like if it were in the States, it would just mean, doing it at like 8 in the morning.
Right.
Or I don't know the time difference in the UK, but...
8 hours, I think. 6 hours, 8 hours.
Yeah. But it's like, it wouldn't be undoable.
Right.
It's like that would easily be doable. Social media. I'm not the best at it, but but this is something because of this project. Like now, like my next mini project is, to be working on this and to, try to promote it as best I can from China because. Like I said, like this is my first full length, and I haven't done this, so it's like I'm learning as I'm going,
mm-hmm.
and it's going to be interesting. It'll be good. Like the work that I'm putting into it is something that will help me later down the road as well. So
right.
It's good to get this.
It's an exciting step. I mean, Beijing gives you another opportunity. China gives you another opportunity.
Yeah.
If it's just, being forced to lock down and stay in one place and not go anywhere. Focus on what you got to work on.
Yay.
Right? Yeah. So if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
davidharrisonhorton.com.
Right on.
Twitter, I'm at Union Herald.
Because that's your publication or your sort of...
Yeah, and those
Pub
are
arm.
those are the two best. Those are the two best ways.
Troll them on Twitter. Or send your spam bots through the .com address.
Or you could just retweet.
Bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, anything
Appreciate
else
it.
that people should know about what's coming up?
No, I appreciate I appreciate you sitting down and talking to me.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Episode 33. David Harrison Horton. Thanks for coming in.
Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
We'll cut it there. All right. And that's episode number 33 with David Harrison Horton. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll have all the show notes and the MP3 file for download up on my website, stevensersky.com. Thanks for taking the time. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll talk again. Bye-bye.